The Ironman of Academics, Reading and Comprehension. Welcome back to KZ Academy. I'm Misty, a credentialed teacher with over 20 years of experience in second language acquisition, mathematics, and elementary education. Through teaching, coaching, and tutoring, I've dedicated my career to helping students, parents, and educators understand the science behind how we learn. This episode is inspired by posts I've been making since 2018 in online forums, which helped lay the groundwork for what is now known as the science of reading. Many of the key ideas that Emily Hanford later presented as her research were already being discussed and shared by me in these forums before she brought them to a wider audience. It's gratifying to see that the techniques I've been refining for over 20 years are now being embraced across America. Her voice played a crucial role in raising awareness and bringing these ideas into the mainstream. When reading fluency hides other learning gaps. I recently came across a powerful post written by a certified dyslexia therapist. She shared her experience working with her own son, a child who seemed to be thriving academically. He read above grade level, spelled accurately, and wrote with skill, and even enjoyed writing. From the outside, everything appeared on track. However, everything changed when he completed a school placement test. The results were unexpected and difficult to process. Despite his advanced reading and writing skills, the test revealed that he was 2.5 years behind in comprehension. The gap was especially noticeable in his inability to understand orally delivered information and in solving math word problems, areas that rely heavily on listening comprehension and the application of language in a different context. As a mother and a specialist in reading and dyslexia, she was heartbroken. She felt she should have seen it, but this wasn't a case of negligence. It's a common human pattern. We often teach the subjects and content that we know best, and because her expertise was in reading, she understandably focused on developing that skill in her son. But while his reading fluency and written language blossomed, other equally important areas were unintentionally left behind. Why one strong skill isn't enough. The Ironman analogy. This brings me back to an analogy I first shared in August 2024. Learning in school is a lot like competing in an Ironman competition. Just as the Ironman consists of 3 demanding events, swimming, biking, running, students must build endurance and skills across 3 core academic areas: reading, writing, and math. An Ironman triathlon is a one-day endurance race totaling 140.6 miles, with athletes competing in a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and a 26.2-mile marathon in sequence. Each leg has its own timed cutoffs, which means success isn't just about strength. It's about stamina, strategy, and showing up ready for every stage. Reading, writing, and math each function as distinct disciplines, much like separate events in the Ironman triathlon. Each one requires its own set of skills, strategies, and consistent practice. A student may be a fluent reader, like a strong swimmer, but if they haven't developed their other skills like writing or math skills, they will likely struggle when asked to combine all 3 skills to demonstrate their understanding. Just as success in the Ironman depends on balanced preparation across all events, academic success requires that we support and strengthen each subject area, not just one of them. Just like in an Ironman triathlon, you can't train for only one event and expect to perform well across the board. Swimming, biking, and running each demand different muscles, endurance, and strategies, and neglecting any of them can lead to failure when it matters most. The same is true in school. Reading, writing, and math each require focused, consistent training. If a student only builds strength in one area, the weaknesses in the others will eventually catch up, often at the worst possible time. It might show up during a high stakes test, on a complex assignment, or even in everyday classroom tasks that demand integrated skills. Real preparation means training for the full race, not just the part that you're good at. The takeaway: skill gaps are often hidden in plain sight. The dyslexia therapist's story is a powerful reminder that a child's strengths can sometimes create the illusion of well-rounded mastery. Strong reading fluency may look like overall academic success, but beneath the surface, there can be significant gaps in comprehension, application, or word problem-solving skills, especially in areas that haven't been intentionally practiced. These aren't failures. They're simply underdeveloped skills that still need time, attention, and support to build. That's why true academic development requires deliberate balance. We must nurture all of the events: decoding, comprehension, writing, reasoning, and problem solving. These aren't skills that just fall into place automatically. They must be explicitly taught, reinforced, and built over time, each with its own kind of instruction, feedback, and support. Being strong in one area is not the same as being strong across the board, and until we recognize that, we risk overlooking the complex skills our students need in various subject areas to thrive in school and later in life. Reading is not comprehension. In November of 2019, I wrote, "Many people think reading comprehension comes from being able to read, but that is only part of it. Reading comprehension has actually very little to do with being able to read, decode. Reading comprehension comes from being able to take pieces of information from the reading and connecting it to other personal experiences. The experience is different for each individual, but comprehension is dependent on personal experiences. That is also why testing in the States is so difficult. We cover a multitude of topics from various genres, and the test might be on a snowy winter day when you live in Hawaii." They also did a study on reading comprehension using baseball. The results found reading ability was not as important as knowing how the game is played through either playing it or seeing it played before. Reading and comprehension are different skills. In school, we often teach them together, but they develop separately, and both need to be nurtured intentionally. Even math has its own kind of language, which demands its own type of comprehension. Word problems aren't just English reading exercises with numbers thrown in. They require students to understand the math vocabulary, follow the sequence of events, and apply logical math-based reasoning to figure out what's actually being asked. Having degrees in both language development and math gives me a unique perspective as looking at how students process information across subjects. And what I've learned is being able to read fluently doesn't automatically mean a student will understand what a math problem is asking them to do. The brain has to work differently. It has to shift into a different mode to interpret and solve math problems. Many states strip out the usual clue words from word problems on purpose. That means students must rely on genuine comprehension, not just pattern recognition. Without enough exposure to guided practice, even a fluent reader would struggle to solve math problems in that format. The up cycle: what we train gets stronger. The down cycle: what we neglect falls by the wayside. The skills we practice tend to grow stronger, while the ones that we neglect quietly weaken. I call this the up and down cycle. When we focus on reading, reading improves. But if math is pushed aside, those skills begin to stagnate, and over time, they weaken. The same goes for comprehension. If we assume it will develop naturally without targeted practice, whether in reading or math, we may one day realize it never truly formed. Comprehension is a skill, not a side effect. Without repeated exposure and guided development, it doesn't grow. This kind of skill imbalance happens all the time, especially in early grades. In K through 2, learning to read often takes center stage. But while reading instruction ramps up, other areas like math fluency and comprehension often take a quiet back seat. By third grade, students are expected to make a major shift from learning to read to reading to learn across all subject areas. At this time, they're also expected to have mastered 3 of the 4 basic math operations and to be ready for the 4th one by 4th grade. But for many students, that's not the reality. Math has quietly taken a back seat. While reading fluency may have improved, the foundation for math reasoning and math problem solving haven't been built. Those skills were left behind, underdeveloped as the training time went into strengthening just one area. It's like prepping for an Ironman competition, spending every day in the pool while skipping the biking and running. Come race day, your swimming might be solid, but you won't have the strength or stamina to finish the full event. In the same way, academic success depends on steady, balanced practice across all areas, not just the one that comes first. To truly thrive, students need intentional, consistent practice in reading, writing, and math. Each of these is a complex skill that must be developed on its own through focused effort and time. Eventually, they're expected to come together and support one another in higher level tasks. And when it comes down to that one big test, assignment, or challenge, every skill matters. Success depends not on isolated strengths, but on the ability to draw from all areas and apply them together. You can't build what you don't train. Access to information is not the same skill as using that information. Watching a video doesn't build reading fluency. Skimming a story isn't the same as understanding it. Looking at a math example is not the same as solving math problems independently. Oversight is important to help us be honest with ourselves. It helps to point out our weaknesses and address them through practice. That's why trust and verify is an essential concept in learning. It's not about doubting our kids. It's about making sure all necessary skills are actually being developed. Even strong readers can have weak comprehension if that skill isn't specifically taught and practiced. Worse yet, sometimes we avoid checking for understanding because we know it's a weak spot for that person. And that doesn't help anyone grow. Just like training for a competition, real preparation means confronting our weaknesses and strengthening them, not just relying on what we're already good at. In October of 2019, I wrote, "Kids are not robots. In fact, I think they are capable of thinking and making good decisions with practice and guidance. I think highly of them. You should try to do the same." Thinking highly of children doesn't mean we step back and let them figure it out for themselves. Believing in their potential means providing them with the tools and oversight they need to succeed. That's why simply providing access isn't enough. Skills must be taught, practiced, and verified. Trust and verify isn't about control or mistrust. It's about respect. We verify because we believe children are capable of meeting high expectations. We offer oversight not to criticize, but to guide and support. We check for understanding, not to catch students failing, but to ensure that they have the tools to succeed. Ultimately, treating children with respect means offering both our trust and our guidance. It means helping them build the confidence that comes from mastering real skills, not just being exposed to them. They aren't robots. They are learners. The best way to honor their potential is by helping them become strong, independent thinkers who can effectively use information. Providing this kind of oversight and intervention is exhausting. It demands constant energy, patience, and commitment from both the learner and the guide. And because we are human, with limited time and only so many heartbeats in a lifetime, there's often pressure to rush the process. In our urgency to see progress, we may unintentionally miss the mark. The interventions we use might not actually meet the student where their skill level is at the moment. We aim to accelerate learning, but in doing so, might be overlooking the foundational skills that haven't been built yet. We risk creating the illusion of progress without any real growth in the skill. It is like trying to coach a person to build stamina for the biking portion of the race without first ensuring they know how to balance on a bike to ride it. True learning isn't fast. It's layered, personal, and sometimes painfully slow. And while it's exhausting to do it right, it's even more costly in the long run to skip steps and hope for the best. Students don't just need support, they need the right kind of support at the right time, tailored to their level of understanding. As the coach, you can build skills, give guidance, and shape the path. But come competition day, you can't do the Ironman for them. They have to swim, bike, and run on their own. That's why practice matters. That's why honesty and oversight matter. Because when the moment comes to apply what they've learned on a test, in a real-world situation, or in life, they need to have the skills, confidence, and independence to carry it through themselves. That is where true pride comes from, not from praise or participation, but from knowing they did it, that they were prepared, that their effort, practice, and persistence paid off, and that someone believed in them enough to hold the bar high and walk with them until they could run on their own. Learning is hard. Coaching learners is hard. But the real reward comes when we watch students become capable, confident individuals, not because we did it for them, but because we guided them, pushed them, and cheered for them as they crossed the finish line on their own. Every academic area is its own event. In school, we often group reading, writing, and math together as the basics. But each of these is its own demanding skill set, much like the 3 separate events in an Ironman triathlon. An Ironman isn't one big race. It's a swim, a bike ride, and a marathon, each with its own challenges, pacing, and timed cutoffs. Excelling in one doesn't guarantee success in another. You might be a strong swimmer and still fall short on the bike ride. Each leg requires focused training and a different kind of strength. Learning works the same way. Reading is not a single skill. It involves decoding, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, each one layered on the next, and each requiring practice to develop and maintain. Math is more than memorizing facts. It includes number sense, reasoning through multiple step problems, and understanding how language in word problems translates into operations. A student struggling in one area isn't behind in everything. On that same note, a student excelling in one skill isn't automatically strong across the board. Each subject and the individual components within it needs targeted attention, intentional practice, and time. When we stop treating learning as one giant race and start recognizing the distinct events within it, we stop looking for shortcuts and start training the right muscles. That's how real progress is made, skill by skill. The fix: practice and accountability. The good news is that every one of these skills can be taught and improved. There's no magic age or cutoff to learning a complex skill. But just like training for an Ironman, it takes time, effort, structure, and consistent practice. Don't assume comprehension is just a natural part of learning any subject. Teach it, practice it, assess it, build it. The Ironman of academics is no different from the real thing. It takes relentless practice, training across multiple skills, and it's the consistent effort in each area that gets you to the finish line. If you found this discussion helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep exploring the fascinating world of education. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.